Most people think stockpiling starts and ends with food, rice, beans, canned goods. That's usually where the conversation stops. But when everyday systems become inconvenient, or supplies suddenly become harder to replace, people realize something very quickly. A lot of the things they actually depend on aren't food at all. They're small, everyday items that nobody thinks about until they suddenly matter, and once they disappear from shelves, you notice immediately. That's the strange part. The most useful items are often the least exciting ones, so instead of focusing only on obvious survival food, let's look at 24 practical things that are genuinely worth stockpiling, and why most people overlook them completely. Start with batteries. Simple, easy to ignore, but once power goes out or devices stop charging, everything changes. Flashlights, radios, small tools, none of them matter without power sources, and batteries disappear from stores extremely fast once demand rises. That's why people who think ahead buy them before they need them. Next is soap. Not luxury soap, basic soap, because people underestimate how quickly hygiene becomes important when routines are disrupted. A small supply lasts a long time, stores easily, and becomes surprisingly valuable once shelves start looking thin. Now, paper towels. Most people only notice these when they run out, but they're used constantly. Cleaning, drying, spills, general household use. That convenience becomes obvious very quickly once you don't have them. Now trash bags, this is one people forget repeatedly. But garbage keeps building whether systems are working normally or not. Trash bags solve problems people don't think about in advance. Storage, containment, protection, and they're useful far beyond their original purpose. Flashlights come next. Most people rely completely on overhead lighting. Once power disappears, movement changes immediately. A good flashlight changes that instantly, and unlike phone flashlights, it doesn't destroy your battery life. Now water containers. These are heavily overlooked, because people assume water will always be available, until pressure drops, or systems fail temporarily. Simple containers suddenly become extremely useful. That's why they disappear quickly during disruptions. Now duct tape. I know this sounds boring, but honestly, it solves problems constantly. Temporary repairs, sealing, securing, holding damaged things together. Duct tape just does all of that. People really underestimate how often they use it until, well, they don't have it now. Basic medicine, pain relievers, cold medicine, simple first aid supplies. Most households have some of these, but not much. And when people suddenly need them all at once, those shelves empty fast. Now lighters and matches. Even households that don't smoke still rely on fire constantly. Cooking, candles, heating, simple ignition tools suddenly become essential, and people usually remember them too late. Now, manual can openers. This one catches people off guard constantly. Folks buy canned food, then realize they can't open it without electricity. That's how dependent modern kitchens have become. One small tool fixes that problem immediately. Now, gloves. Work gloves, cleaning gloves, cold weather gloves. People really underestimate how useful hand protection becomes during physical tasks, especially once routines change. Now, rope and cord. Another simple item that solves far more problems than people expect. Tying, securing, carrying, temporary fixes. It's honestly one of the most versatile things you can keep around. Now candles. People joke about these until the lights actually go out. Then suddenly, simple light sources just feel far more important than they did before, especially during long evenings. Now basic tools, hammer, screwdriver, pliers, nothing complicated, but once something breaks, you notice immediately whether you can fix it yourself. Now socks. This sounds strange at first, I get it, but people underestimate comfort constantly. Clean, dry socks matter more than people expect, especially in cold conditions. That's why experienced people always keep extras. So, now cooking oil. Not exactly glamorous, but, it's extremely useful. It adds calories, improves basic food, and, honestly, stores surprisingly well. That's why it disappears earlier than people expect. Now let's talk about powdered milk. Fresh milk, well, it disappears quickly. But powdered milk lasts far longer, and it works in cooking, baking, and just basic meals. That flexibility really matters. And now, aluminum foil. People don't usually think of this as important, but it actually stores well, protects food, helps with cooking, and, yeah, has dozens of practical uses. That's what makes it valuable. Now, zip ties. Such a tiny item, but, huge usefulness. They're great for organizing, securing, and even for those quick temporary fixes. People who work with tools already know just how useful these become, honestly. Now, bleach. Not for drinking, not for any extreme uses, just basic cleaning and sanitation. Simple household cleaning supplies matter way more during disruptions than most people realize. And now, instant coffee. This one might sound less serious, but comfort really matters. Routine matters. People underestimate morale constantly. Small familiar things help people feel normal and, that changes stress levels more than people expect. Now, pet food. Even households with pets often forget this one. Animals still need food, regardless of supply issues or store availability. And honestly, pet food disappears very quickly during disruptions. Now, spare chargers and cables. Most people own one, maybe two. But cables fail constantly. And once replacements become difficult to find, well, people realize just how dependent they are on these tiny pieces of equipment. Now, toilet paper. The obvious example, right? But it became famous for a reason. People don't think about it until supply suddenly changes, and once people notice shelves looking thinner, demand explodes immediately. Now, let's step back for a moment, because none of these items are dramatic, and really, that's kind of the point. They're ordinary, everyday, easy to overlook, but ordinary things are often the most useful. Most people imagine preparation as something extreme, huge bunkers, massive storage systems, complex equipment, but real-life disruptions usually expose much simpler weaknesses. No batteries, no lighting, no storage containers, no basic tools. That's what people actually notice first. And once you experience that, you stop looking at everyday supplies the same way. You realize just how many systems quietly support normal life, and how quickly inconvenience appears once even small parts disappear. That's why stockpiling works best when it's practical, not dramatic, not random, just, practical. The goal isn't to buy everything, it's to remove unnecessary pressure later, because once stores become crowded, or supplies become inconsistent, people stop thinking clearly. They rush, they overbuy, they take whatever they can find. That's why simple preparation matters. Not because disaster is guaranteed, but because everyday life runs more smoothly when you already have what you need. And maybe that's the biggest misunderstanding around stockpiling. People assume it's about fear, but often it's really about convenience, flexibility, reducing stress, a few extra supplies, a slightly deeper pantry, basic backups for common items. That alone changes a lot, because once you understand which items matter most, you stop overlooking them, and you start noticing how often small things quietly hold daily life together.